A dangerous, undercover world of sleeping pills and anxiety drugs.
I'm no different from the people who are taking drugs on the street.
Sky News has seen evidence the pandemic may be pushing more people to buy them illegally online.
Since the pandemic, I've gotten 3 to 4 messages a week asking me to supply benzos as they can't get them from a doctor. Prior to the pandemic, I'd be asked once a fortnight or so.
Benzodiazepines, or benzos, prescription only in the UK, are being bought on the internet from abroad.
It's so easy to find them. A quick search and you're spoilt for choice.
But they're often not what they're advertised to be.
People will buy what often look like very convincingly packaged medication. They're often fake.
Figures seen by Sky News show a rise in the number of benzodiazepines bought illegally in the UK and sent in for testing to a public laboratory.
Unless we act soon around drugs, benzos, it will be a bit of a pandemic for young people growing up, and addiction will rise.
Kathy's perhaps not your typical drug user, well off in her 50s.
You always need more. You can't stop. You can't stop taking them.
She's among what's believed to be a huge number of women, especially just like her, across the UK. We've changed her name and revoiced her words.
For me, because of the drugs, the loss of my memory and the depression was the worst possible situation for me. I couldn't get out of bed. I just felt like life was pointless. I think that was the lowest point for me. Really realising that I had no desire to live. I just didn't have any reason for waking up. Lockdown was perfect because I just didn't want to wake up, so I wouldn't.
Now clean, she says the diazepam she bought online came from India, Romania and Pakistan.
I just typed in buy diazepam to the internet, random website came up, one of multiple, and I'm now in a live conversation with someone called Eddie. I've asked him, can you give me a prescription? I don't have one. He said, we don't need a prescription. I've asked, do you deliver to the UK? He says, yes. I thought it was illegal to buy them without a prescription if I am here in the UK. He's clearly saying something's legal here when it's not.
The concern for some is that it won't be obvious, but without a prescription, it is possession of a Class C drug.
They will include tablets with variable dosing, often with lots of impurities, and most worryingly, often with other substances that have been substituted.
Dr. Owen Bowden-Jones from the Addiction to Online Medicine Clinic warns buying on the web is risky.
The real difficulty is if you take one tablet and you think, well, it seems a bit weak, it hasn't really had much effect, then you might take a second tablet. That tablet might actually be much, much stronger. And so the risk is that people overdose, they become rapidly intoxicated and they collapse.
Figures seen by Sky News from Wedinos, the Public Health Wales-run laboratory that receives drugs from across the UK for testing, show the number of benzodiazepines sent in increased during the pandemic by 25% in 2020 compared to the year before. Worryingly, there's also been a rise in the level of substitution compared to 2019. In the last quarter of 2020, less than half of diazepam and alprazolam or Xanax samples tested actually contained those substances.
And that's why it's to inject the benzos here, along with obviously other drugs.
Paul's a former drug addict. He knows how dangerous benzos can be.
You know, I've been on a few drugs over the years, you know, A-class drugs, but benzos, coming off of them was harder than coming off of heroin.
He usually gives talks in schools on drugs and is worried what he's hearing is that the impact of lockdown could be fueling a rise in use among young people too.
There's more drugs being sold online to young people than ever. You can access any sites. They don't even know what they're buying, these children. I have heard, you know, via certain social media platforms, via parents, even students themselves, that they have been started buying drugs online and getting involved with benzos. And, you know, and their behaviour's all over the place. They can't function properly. You know, their education's gone out the window.
This guy wants to sell 100 Valium, 10 micrograms for €90.
And benzos are openly sold on social media. Often there's inter-platform advertising.
An extensive menu from this seller. Diazepam's actually out of stock here, but 10 boxes are £195, for example. So sometimes in the comments they have sort of a WhatsApp number or a website.
In response, Twitter said keeping people safe is a top priority. They remain vigilant and take robust enforcement action. Facebook and Instagram said similar. Buying and selling prescription drugs is strictly against our policies. They work closely with the police. And last year, they removed over 5 million pieces of content connected to drug sales. And Snapchat the same. They're proactively making it hard for the sale of illegal drugs and are dedicated to stopping it.
A lot of people call it a disease. I believe I may have a disease of addiction.
Meanwhile, Kathy wants to reach others like her.
Stopping benzos, I have clarity, my mind is sharper, I feel happy about life. I have energy, it's like being reborn.
It's impossible to know the scale of self-medication. There are just pieces of a jigsaw suggesting a problem before COVID may only be getting worse as a result. Adele Robinson, Sky News.